They called him Ethan Cole, the man who built an empire from nothing. A self-made billionaire, philanthropist, owner of one of the largest investment firms in America. He was admired for his success, respected for his wisdom, but few knew where it all began. At a press conference one evening, a journalist asked, "Mr. Cole, what was the turning point of your life? The moment that changed everything?" Ethan smiled, that kind of soft, distant smile that hides a lifetime of memories. He looked down for a moment, then said quietly, "It all started with a man who never paid for his breakfast." The hall went silent. Even the clicking of cameras stopped. And then Ethan began to tell the story. A story that took everyone back 20 years, to a small cafe on Maple Street in the heart of Chicago. The year was 2005. Ethan wasn't a billionaire then. He wasn't even successful. He was just another tired accountant with big dreams and a small paycheck. Every morning, he stopped by the Maple Street Cafe before work, a cozy little place that smelled like buttered toast and fresh coffee. It was owned by Mr. Parker, a kind old man with silver hair and a permanent smile. The cafe was warm, simple, and always alive, a small piece of peace in a rushing city. But there was one customer who didn't fit the picture, a man in his late 50s wearing old, faded clothes. He came in every single morning, ordered the same meal, eggs, toast, and black coffee, ate quietly, and then walked out. No payment, no conversation, just silence. At first, Ethan thought maybe Mr. Parker knew him. Maybe it was an arrangement. But the more he watched, the stranger it felt. The man never even looked at the cashier, never took out a wallet, just finished eating and left like a ghost in daylight. Day after day, week after week. And what confused Ethan the most was that Mr. Parker never stopped him, never called him out, never looked angry. He just smiled and kept serving him. One morning, Ethan couldn't take it anymore. The cafe was crowded that day, cups clinking, chatter echoing, sunlight spilling through the big glass window. The old man finished his breakfast as usual, stood up, and walked out. Ethan waited until the door closed, then got up and marched to the counter. "Mr. Parker," he said, lowering his voice, "that man, he comes every morning, eats, and never pays. Doesn't that bother you?" Mr. Parker looked at him, calm as always, and said something Ethan would never forget. "No, son, let him eat." Ethan frowned. "Let him eat? But he's taking advantage of you." Mr. Parker smiled softly. "No, he's feeding me." Ethan froze. "Feeding you? How?" Mr. Parker sighed, removed his apron, and motioned to a corner table. "Sit down," he said. "You look like a man who needs to understand life, not just balance sheets." Ethan sat. The cafe noise faded into the background. Mr. Parker began to speak, his tone slow, deep, full of something Ethan couldn't name. "A year ago, this cafe was dying," Mr. Parker said. "Every day, I'd open these doors and wait, but no one came. Some days, I didn't sell a single cup of coffee. I was close to shutting down." He paused, and then one morning, that same man walked in, ate quietly, left without paying. I was too tired to care. The next day, the cafe was full. For the first time in months, every table was occupied. I thought it was luck, but it happened again. Every day that man came, my cafe filled up. Ethan stared, trying to process. Then one day, he didn't show up, Mr. Parker continued. And just like that, the cafe was empty again. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. That evening, I followed him. I found him sitting in a park, looking up at the sky. I hid behind a tree and listened. Mr. Parker's eyes softened. He was whispering, "Dear God, I'm hungry. Please fill this cafe with people so I can eat without being noticed." Ethan sat frozen, his throat tight. From that day on, Mr. Parker said, I never stopped him, because I realized his prayer didn't just feed him, it fed all of us. He looked Ethan straight in the eyes. Sometimes, the people you think are taking from you are the reason you're surviving. God hides blessings in the people we ignore. The cafe door jingled softly as another customer walked in. But Ethan didn't look. He was staring at the empty seat where the man had sat moments ago. The man whose hunger had somehow fed an entire cafe. For the first time, Ethan felt something deeper than understanding. He felt faith. Ethan's voice brought everyone back to the present. At the press conference, he looked around the silent room and said, "That man never paid for his breakfast. But because of him, I learned the greatest truth of life. Don't judge who God sends to bless you. Sometimes blessings come disguised as beggars." After that morning, Ethan Cole was never the same. He went to the office as usual, sat at his desk, but something inside him had shifted. All his life, he believed success was numbers, profit, loss, assets, savings. But now, sitting in front of endless spreadsheets, all he could see was that old man, praying quietly in a park, asking God for a chance to eat in peace. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The words of Mr. Parker kept echoing in his mind. Sometimes the people you think are taking from you are the ones keeping you alive. It didn't make sense at first, but the more he thought about it, the more it did. He realized that blessings don't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes they come in worn shoes and torn jackets. Days turned into weeks. Ethan kept visiting the cafe, and the same man kept coming. Each morning, the cafe filled with customers like magic. Laughter, aroma, warmth, as if the whole place was alive because of one man's prayer. But Ethan didn't see that man as a thief anymore. He saw him as a mirror, a reminder that life isn't about counting what you earn, it's about recognizing what you're given. One day, Ethan decided to act on what he'd learned. He took a leap, something completely against his logical accountant nature. He walked into his boss's office and said, "Sir, I'm quitting." His boss almost dropped his pen. "You're what?" "I'm leaving. I want to start my own company." His boss laughed. "You? You can barely afford rent." "Ethan, what will you even do?" Ethan smiled. "I'll do what that man did for Mr. Parker's cafe. I'll create something that helps people, and I'll trust that the rest will follow." Ethan started small, really small. A desk in his apartment, a secondhand laptop, a borrowed chair. He began helping small local businesses manage their accounts for almost nothing. But there was something special about how he worked. He treated every client like family. He didn't charge those who couldn't pay. Instead, he told them, "When you grow, just help someone else." Word spread. A struggling bakery owner told others about the accountant who doesn't charge the poor. A mechanic who couldn't pay him referred 5 paying clients in return. Within months, Ethan's inbox overflowed. He grew his business not through marketing, but through mercy. He had unknowingly built a brand powered by kindness, a company where giving was the currency. And every time someone tried to remind him about profits or competition, he'd smile and say, "If God can fill a cafe for one hungry man, he can fill my life for a sincere intention." One winter morning, 3 years later, Ethan walked past the same Maple Street cafe. It had expanded, new walls, more tables, a brighter signboard. But one thing was missing. The old man wasn't there anymore. Ethan asked Mr. Parker, "Where's the man who used to come every morning?" Mr. Parker smiled sadly. "He passed away last month. He had no family." The neighborhood came together for his funeral. Ethan's heart sank. He never even knew how many lives he changed, he whispered. Mr. Parker nodded. "That's how real blessings work. They don't make noise, they just make miracles." That night, Ethan couldn't stop thinking. He made a silent promise that if success ever came his way, he would be the same kind of blessing to others, quiet, humble, and constant. He didn't know it then, but that promise would one day make him one of the richest men in America. 15 years had passed since the days of the Maple Street Cafe. Ethan Cole was no longer the struggling accountant from a one-room apartment. He was now Ethan Cole, founder and CEO of Cole Industries, a multi-million-dollar financial firm with offices across the country. His name appeared in Forbes. His suits were custom-tailored. And yet, in the silence of his penthouse, he still remembered the man who never paid for breakfast. Ethan had built his company on trust and kindness. But business was changing. The world was faster now, colder, more calculated. One evening, his board members called for an emergency meeting. The numbers were bad. A major deal had collapsed. Investors were pulling out. The firm was bleeding millions every week. His CFO said bluntly, Ethan, we need to cut costs. Fire half the staff. Sell the charity wing. Stop funding community projects. We can't afford kindness anymore. Ethan looked around the table. Faces hard, desperate. He wanted to say yes to survive. But something inside him whispered, don't sell the soul that built your empire. He stood up and said quietly, no, we won't fire anyone. And the charity stays. His CFO slammed the file shut. Then you'll lose everything. Ethan smiled. Maybe, but I'd rather lose everything than lose why I started. Weeks passed. The company continued to sink. Banks called. Lawyers circled. The media started writing headlines like, from billionaire to bankruptcy. Ethan stopped sleeping. He sat alone in his office night after night, staring at the city lights. He prayed for the first time in years. God, you gave me everything. I try to help others. So why does it all feel like it's falling apart? But silence answered him. Then one stormy evening, as he was leaving his office, he saw a woman standing in the rain outside his building. She was holding a small boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old. Both were soaked, shivering. Ethan stopped. Ma'am, are you okay? She looked up. I came to thank you. You don't know me, but 3 years ago, your foundation paid for my son's heart surgery. You saved his life. She reached into her bag and handed him an envelope. I started a bakery after that. It's small, but doing well. This is a check for you. It's not much, but it's my way of saying thank you. Ethan opened the envelope. It was a check for $1,200. A drop of rain hit the paper, and he smiled. Keep it, he said softly. But the woman insisted. Please, you once helped us when we had nothing. Let me be the one to give this time. Ethan took it, just to respect her heart. That night, his accountant called. Sir, I don't know how to explain this, but the payment we needed to stop foreclosure, it cleared. Your account balance just updated. You're safe. Ethan frowned. Ow! I didn't authorize any transfer. The accountant replied, confused. It's strange. The exact amount, $1,200, the minimum we needed, appeared in the company's account this evening. Ethan froze. It was the same $1,200 the woman had given him. He sank into his chair, tears welling in his eyes. He whispered, so this is how you answer prayers. The memory of Mr. Parker's words came rushing back. Sometimes, the people you think are taking from you are the ones keeping you alive. That night, Ethan understood something deeper. God's economy doesn't work like Wall Street. When you give, he multiplies. When you save others, he saves you, sometimes through the smallest, simplest acts. Over the next months, Ethan rebuilt. Investors returned, drawn by his integrity. The company survived, stronger than before. But Ethan had changed. He stopped measuring success by profit. Instead, he started asking one question at every meeting. Who do we help today? Ethan steps onto the stage. The applause roars, but he raises his hand, a quiet gesture for silence. He stands there for a moment, looking over the sea of faces. His silver hair glows under the stage light. And then, softly, he begins. People call me a billionaire, but I wasn't always this man in a suit. I was once just a tired accountant who couldn't afford breakfast. The crowd goes still. He takes a breath, eyes distant, voice deep. Years ago, there was a small cafe on Maple Street. Every morning, an old man used to eat there and never paid. He'd just smile and say, one day I'll return this kindness. A few chuckles ripple through the audience. The owner never complained. She'd say, if he's hungry, let him eat. God's ledger keeps better accounts than ours. He pauses, smiling faintly. One winter morning, that old man stopped coming. We later found out he passed away. And I remember thinking, kindness doesn't always come back from where you gave it. The audience listens, captivated. Ethan steps closer to the edge of the stage. Years later, when I was down to nothing, when I thought my life was over, I realized something. That cafe, that woman, I didn't just feed an old man. They were feeding me. Because that old man's words, one day I'll return this kindness, became the seed that built everything I have today. The crowd murmurs, some already in tears. He continues, voice trembling now. When my company was on the brink of collapse, when every door was closing, A woman I never met gave me $1,200. That money saved my business. Later, I found out she was the granddaughter of the cafe owner. A stunned silence falls across the hall. The kindness that began at a cafe table decades ago found its way back across generations. That's how the world works. Every good deed circles back, even if it takes a lifetime. He looks up at the massive screen behind him. A photo appears. The old Maple Street Cafe, now rebuilt with a sign that reads the Parker Foundation Cafe. Meals free for the hungry. I rebuilt the cafe in her name. Anyone can eat there. No bills, no questions. Because sometimes all someone needs is a warm meal and a little faith. Tears glisten in his eyes as he finishes. If I've learned anything from my journey, it's this. The richest people are not the ones who have the most, but the ones who give the most without keeping count. Music swells, soft piano and strings. The crowd rises, clapping through tears. Ethan closes his speech, smiling humbly. As he walks off the stage, a reporter rushes forward and asks, "Mr. Cole, what's the secret behind your success?" Ethan stops, looks back, and simply says, "A breakfast someone paid for long before I could afford it."